Hi, guys. This is John Block, editor and founder of the Piñon Post. And today we really have a treat. We are joined with Chairman of New Mexico Republican Party, Steve Pearce, and a seven-term congressman who is leading our party right now. And right now he's running for re-election to that post. And during this time, he has worked to build up the party, including 30,000 new Republicans registered in New Mexico. He reclaimed CD2 and he picked up seats in the New Mexico House, staved off Democrat supermajorities in both chambers, and raised $6 million for the party during his tenure. And he has done a lot with Hispanic and Black outreach in New Mexico. And so it's an honor to join him. Thank you for joining us, Congressman and
Thanks.
Chairman.
Always nice talking to you. Good to be here. I hope you and your family are safe.
Thank you. Thank you. We are, thankfully. Let's go right into the first question I have for you here. And so on Friday, the party, they filed a lawsuit in Bernalillo County looking to impound ballots. So can you tell me a little more about this lawsuit and what that entails?
We look first at recounts. Those are very expensive, I think, by design in New Mexico. $3,400 per day per precinct. There are 1,900 precincts in New Mexico, so you can do the math. But we found this avenue in law that if we impound ballots, we're allowed to count with volunteers. We feel like that there were anomalies in the recent election, but we can't ever just isolate it down. The only way to do that is to do a manual recount and compare it to the voting machines. It's quite simple, just it's going to be time consuming. But we start that process with volunteers on Monday in Bernalillo County, but we're going to expand that look into Sandoval, Valencia, other counties across the state. So stay tuned, because I think we've got a lot of work to do between now and in about 10 days or 2 weeks from now.
Great. Well, it seems like there's a lot of momentum. I've seen a lot of people going on social media and talking about how this really is making a difference and how they want to secure the vote. So also something that people in New Mexico are really fired up about is Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham and her lockdowns. And I know that you've been on the national scene talking on different networks and the press about what we're doing to stave off Michelle Lujan Grisham and to make sure that she's held accountable, especially as people are forming bread lines outside of grocery stores and other things like that that are really hurting New Mexicans. What is the party doing to make sure that they are holding New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham accountable?
Well, the first thing is to recognize the problem and then speak about it. That's the biggest part of accountability that there is. So when the governor was and her spokespeople were saying that that the lines don't really exist, I happened to be on the line at Walmart. It was happened to be about a 45-minute to 1 hour wait to get in. People ahead of me leaving when they waited as long as they could, had to get back to work. It was the middle of the day. And so we posted that as just as they were making comments that the lines don't exist. But also, like you said, we're talking publicly about it. I made the point that this red, yellow, green just sounds pretty, it sounds pretty innocuous, really, that it's maybe going to be the right answer. But then there's a biostatistician in Albuquerque who came out and posted the next day after that announcement by the governor that we're going to such a system. He pointed out 32 of the 33 counties in New Mexico are in red, and at the earliest, probably 5 to 7 months to get out from under the red status. That means that business is basically shut down for 5 to 7 months. You're going to do economic damage that is irreversible in the state. So we've been making those points, and people are saying, well, what would you do? And I said, well, frankly, I would do what many of the Republican governors are doing and look to personal accountability and responsibility. Not everyone is equally vulnerable. And so tell the people who are more vulnerable who they are, the less vulnerable, let them know. If you're under 50 years old, you have a 99.9 chance of survival if you get the virus. And so I think that that's a key thing. Also, people with pre-existing conditions dominate the people who are passing away. So to treat everyone as if they're equally vulnerable is number one, untrue. Number two, it is devastating to the economy. A young single mom was expressing to my wife last week that she had spent her entire life savings trying to get through these difficult times. And now then with the shutdown, she's not sure how she's going to pay the rent. How is that productive to keep her kid out of school, to keep her out of work, and to just unsettle their lives when neither one of them at their ages are particularly vulnerable to mortality? And so I just think that our governor has taken a one-dimensional approach to this, saying that everybody is equally susceptible and everybody is equally at risk. It's untrue. So we simply speak the truth to power.
Exactly, especially with all those lines and all those people hurting, people are really feeling the effects of this governor's shutdown, and that makes it that more important for legislators to be going to Santa Fe come January and holding the governor accountable. And that means three more Republicans will be joining their ranks. And that goes right back into what you've done as chairman to help build these ranks and help build up the party. So, is there something that you can point to that you're most proud of during these 2 years that you've served as chairman?
Well, we hit so many high points, and I don't take credit for it personally. We were directing and saying how we should spend our resources, but tremendous numbers of volunteers are probably the thing that we're proudest of. But then the 101 candidates for 112 seats, typically the Republican Party puts up about 65 candidates. So we almost doubled the number of people we had running. And they were good, highly qualified candidates. But the diversity of the field was tremendous. We had four African Americans running, Black conservatives willing to speak out publicly and say, yes, we're proud Republicans. That hasn't happened much in New Mexico. Native Americans standing up and proudly running as conservative Republicans in the state. Again, that's very rare. Then we always have had great Hispanic male and female candidates. That was true again this year. So when we look at it, that ability to hit 3.1 million doors and make that many phone calls was really a stunning operation, and one that is totally credited to not only the volunteers, but to the 70 full-time employees that were working for RPNM and Trump Victory in order to get those voter contacts. We did what it takes to win this race. Now we're checking to make sure that that there aren't malfeasance and different things happening with the voting machines. So we'll give it time. We'll check. If we find it, fine. If we don't, we will acknowledge that. But we think that there's reason to count the votes by hand. So that's what we're doing. But the ballot security program is the last element of a very complex program that we ran during the last 2 years.
Exactly. And with all that investment from the Trump campaign and other folks around the country putting money into New Mexico to try to help turn it back to red, that probably meant utilizing and leveraging a lot of your political connections that you made in Washington and around the state. And how did you use those contacts, and how do you expect to use those if you are elected to another term in this chairmanship?
Well, we did have great friends in Congress, in the U.S. Senate, at the White House. Mick Mulvaney used to sit next to me on the Financial Services Committee. Then he went over and was the chief of staff, the head of OMB. He was followed up by Mark Meadows, a good friend of mine in the Freedom Caucus. Mark and I are talking 2 or 3 times a week right now, still working on the dynamics of this election that has passed. He's asking us questions about New Mexico. We're providing as many answers as we can. But it really took all of those different elements to make sure that the Trump victory team considered New Mexico as a target state. That was the requirement in order to get the resources here. Many people didn't believe it was possible, but I still believe that the president did much better than what the vote shows. Again, we're just trying to check that out to make sure.
Exactly. And we will see that probably in the next couple weeks, how that lawsuit is going to turn around. And also that it just goes back to how we need to stay active in the party to make sure that we are reaching these different people around the state. And I know that this last weekend, or a couple weeks ago, or a couple days ago rather, you were speaking at the Southwest Coalition for Life dinner, and you've been a fighter for the unborn while you were in Congress and well before that. And so, what are your plans to use pro lifers and include pro lifers and the pro life issue to help build our coalition going forward in this next term as chairman if you're elected?
Well, the most important thing we did was direct people to the New Mexico Right to Life board, had them installed there. They had people who had worked for years in the issues. They were getting tired. looking for replacements. And so we sent several people there to be on their board. We also have spoken at events around the state for them. We're encouraging local right to life chapters to start springing up because we think that if we put the issue in front of conservative Democrats across New Mexico, that they're going to realize that they have really bought into a party that is in favor of even up including abortion on the day of birth, which gets very close to infanticide. And so, again, we just want to speak truth to power. We've been doing that. We organized several protests in the last two legislative sessions. Those things shocked the Democrat majority when people began to show up and hold them accountable. When the eight conservative Democrats joined with the Republicans to block the most egregious abortion bill in the country, then that was just a sign that our message was getting across to the conservative Democrats in New Mexico.
Great. Well, it's always great to see more people on both sides of the aisle come together and support life and support these critical issues that we have in our state where our people are hurting right now and they need all the relief that they can get. So, what are the goals that you are going to set for yourself and for the party coming into these next 2 years with 2022 right around the corner and us needing to really pick up our ground game and ensure that we have strong candidates and a strong infrastructure to win in 2022 and potentially take out Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham and a bunch of radical Democrats who have really infiltrated the New Mexico legislature and other different elected offices, such as Secretary of State.
Well, for the Republican Party, our main focus is not so much about the party, but what we can do to make New Mexico a better place. That means lower taxes, better jobs, better opportunities for higher pay. It means that we take care of those people who are having trouble taking care of themselves, that we're considerate of those that are less fortunate. The Republican Party is going to stand very tall for the right to life issue. We're going to speak out on the elements of the progressive agenda that are just harmful to New Mexicans. But mostly, we're going to try to include everyone in every county. We've already made deep inroads, like you said at the opening. We've registered over 30,000 new Republicans. First time ever that we've registered more Republicans than the Democrats were able to register. So we're going to keep that effort going. Like you said, the ground game is just awfully important. Ballot security is important. Most people, Republican, Democrat, or independent, they just want a fair election. They may recognize that the candidate might win, they might lose, but if they can sense that the election was fair or mostly fair, they're going to accept the results. This election had so many anomalies that you just can't look away and say that we shouldn't investigate more closely. Nationally, you had that I think 15 so far Republicans take seats away from Democrats in the House of Representatives. Not one Republican lost nationwide. And we're supposed to believe that everyone voted against President Trump and then went down and voted Republican for Congress. I will tell you that typically is not the answer and is not true. So I think the ballot security is a question that is going to be very much on the Republican Party's mind nationwide and here in New Mexico. But I think just that attention to detail during the legislative sessions, feeding information to our representatives, that's always the problem, is how to assess which bills are coming in front of them. In our door knocking, in our reviews, our polls that we took during the last 2 years, we've got access to quite a bit of information, and we just want to share that with our legislators when they're on the front lines fighting up in Santa Fe. So just a very cohesive, full board attack on those people who would tear down this nation and our values. And we'll support those people who really believe that building up the nation is in our best interest. A strong America is good for the world. It's good for us. We need that here in New Mexico, especially. So just a full range of activities to move our party forward, but more importantly, to move New Mexico forward.
Exactly. There's a lot of work to do in the state. There's still a lot of people to reach. And I remember your gubernatorial race where you said during that race, forget the title, I want the job. You want to work for the people. And, I've seen that firsthand, how we met. I was bussing tables at a Guadalupe Cafe, which is right next to the state capitol. And, that's where I met you. you and your family, and it was just great to meet. It's a congressman, a sitting congressman, and he treated you with such respect and dignity, and he really cared about the issues that you cared about, even if it's just a busser at a restaurant or any kind of person around the state. So it looks like you're really working hard to bring more people into the party. So, what would be the last words that you would tell someone that would be voting in this December 7th election for chairman? What would those last parting words be to them to seal the deal and tell them why you deserve this chairmanship for 2 more years?
Look, we are in a very desperate battle, both in the state and nationally, to keep our heritage as a country and as a state. I'm proud of New Mexico. I love it. I tell people I'm the only one of six kids, six brothers and sisters raised here in Hobbs, New Mexico, who still is in the state. I stayed here because I love it. And I think that we've all chosen to be here. Every one of us could find a better job outside the state. We could find more pay, but we stay here because our heart is here. And if our heart is here, then let's pour out every single bit of effort we can to making New Mexico a better place. That's going to be done politically by electing Republicans and by electing people with conservative values. And so that's my message, that we're going to become more unified as a party. We're going to have a bigger footprint as a party. We're going to be more diverse as a party. We're going to move forward, and this state is going to turn red because the people of New Mexico are ready for it to turn red. They're frustrated and angry at where the progressives have gone. Democrats kept telling us during the door knocking phase during the last 2 months, 3 months of the campaign that the Democrat Party left us. We didn't leave it, and we don't like where they're going. And so they said, we'll be voting red this time. That's a movement that I think is going to accelerate if Joe Biden actually is sworn in as president. And definitely under this governor, with the shutdowns, with the economic devastation that is occurring in the state, with the devastation to families, to their well-being, to their mental, emotional, spiritual well-being, I think that people are going to react very strongly in the next 2 elections to say we've had enough. And so all we have to do as Republicans is to put our best foot forward. Let people see our genuineness. Let them see our integrity, our kindness. And when they see that, they're going to recognize that what they've been told by the media about Republicans is totally wrong. So let's go out and win, every single one of us, win our neighborhood, win our family, win our friends over to the idea that there can be a better New Mexico and a better country. We're going to succeed.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to speak with me and to all the viewers of the Piñon Post. And this will be online. This will be on our Facebook page as well as on our website. And everyone can visit piñonpost.com to check it out. They can also visit at Pearce4NM on Twitter and check out the Republican Party of New Mexico website at newmexico.gop. And thank you all so much for listening. Thank you, Congressman and Chairman Pearce, for being here and for speaking for the people of New Mexico. We appreciate it, and we look forward to speaking with you another time.
All right, John, keep up the great work. I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.